Takeaway Chinese, where you can take some Chinese away and experience progress day by day. Takeaway Chinese, we will promise you a difference.
你好，欢迎收听随行汉语 Welcome to Takeaway Chinese. I'm 牛红林 and joining me today, someone very special, our new friend on Takeaway Chinese, Sophia Alfred. Welcome to the show. Great to have you. So, can you briefly introduce yourself a little bit to our audience out there?
Yes. Hi, my name is Sophia Alfred. My Chinese name is 索玉倩. Like my Chinese friend called me Qian Qian.
Aw, lovely Qian Qian.
Yeah, and I'm a student right now at Shanghai, New York University, or NYU Shanghai.
NYU Shanghai, yes. And I'm very glad to welcome you to the show. As a matter of fact, we are on a special series showcasing Chinese learners from different countries, from different cultures, and of course with different Chinese proficiency. So I was wondering, if you have to evaluate yourself, 你觉得你的中文怎么样？
我觉得还行吧. I think it's okay.
It's definitely more than okay. And this 我觉得还行吧. This is already very, very Chinese. I mean, not only the meaning of it, like Chinese people would be a little bit more modest when it comes to evaluating themselves, and also the tone as well as the way you say it and the very, very correct using of 还行吧. It's like for Chinese students, I'm not really sure whether it's still the same thing for this generation of Chinese. I think so, but definitely for my generation, if you dare to say that something about you is 还行吧, actually you're already very proud of that. Is that the case for you, Sophia?
Maybe a little.
That is so lovely, and I cannot wait to do the show with you. I'm pretty sure there are so many stories about Chinese learning, about living in China, about different cultures that you have experienced that you can share, and I cannot wait. And for our dear listeners, if you're interested in Chinese culture and you want to get a grip on the Chinese language, then this is the show for you. Stick with us for 30 minutes and you soon see the rewards. And for more fun Chinese learning, follow our Facebook page, Learn Chinese, to watch many fun videos and live streams. I think, Sophia, you have already talked a little bit about yourself, but I still want to ask, can you give us a short story or a self-introduction that can best represent your Chinese level? Can you introduce yourself in Chinese?
Yeah. 所以 Hello， 大家好，我叫索玉倩，是索道的索，日历的语或者丽玉的语，然后我是前女友混的前。
倩女幽魂的倩啊。
对，我蛮喜欢那个。
This is a lovely character. Can you do that in English so our friend who does not have such Chinese level can understand you?
Yes, so in Chinese there's a word called 索道. I don't really know what this word in English is, but the character from that is the same as my Chinese last name, which is also a play on words because in Chinese, if you say Sophia, it's Sophia, and it's the same character.
Yes.
So that one, and then actually my name Yu is taken from has a fire radical and a sun radical and a character Li together. And actually I picked this character name for my name because I really like a poet, and he also used to be like an emperor named Li Yu. And so I really like his poem, so I picked this character. And then I picked a cute girly character called Qian because and it's from like a movie, and I really enjoy that one. So I picked this character Qian, and also it's like kind of girly.
It is kind of girly, but it's like a very beautiful girl. It gives you that connotation of a beautiful girl. 倩女 is like a beautiful lady. So 倩女幽魂. Of course, it's a story about a female ghost and the romantic love she shares with a young Chinese ancient scholar. Long story. We can share that story in some other episodes. But the reason I'm asking you to explain your name is that actually that is, to start with, a very, very proper Chinese name. So you've got this 3 character, which is the most common number of characters Chinese people have in their names. And the first character definitely it's not a common family name for Chinese people, but it's there and it can be a family name. And then we have the two other characters as given name, and that's the common structure of Chinese names. You've got one family name, one character or two characters as a family name, and one or two characters as your given name. So standard structure. And I think it's a good example to show that if you are in China or if you want to give yourself a Chinese name, these are the things that you can do. You pick a family name kind of character as the first character in your name. It can relate to, for example, in your case, your English name, 所. That's 索菲亚的索, also 索玉倩的索, same kind of 索. You pick one character with a certain element that relate to your life, your name, or something you enjoy, like the 玉 and 倩. So the pronunciation of it is quite nice, and the connotation or the kind of things that you can think about when you look at your name. This is a really good name, and this is a really good way to pick a name. So yes, so only from your name we're learning quite so much about you, and that's the beauty of Chinese names. And I was wondering, because from 所玉倩 and from 一般般还行吧, and all these, I feel like you've been learning Chinese for long enough. So can you share with us, how did you start learning Chinese and how do you feel after these years?
So, how did I start learning Chinese? I've actually had a really long history with Chinese. When I was about 7, 8 years old, I moved from Brazil to America, and my Chinese neighbors kind of took me in and like took care of me. They'd pick me up after school, and actually everyone in the school, like in that area, were Chinese as well. So I was surrounded by a lot of, Chinese people and my Chinese neighbor, and they would just often talk to me in Chinese too. And so that's kind
How
of
long were
my
you
first.
back then?
I was like 7 or 8 years old.
7, 8 years old, and they're speaking Chinese to you. Wow. Okay. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
I mean, they also just moved from China to America too. So we both
Oh.
I didn't know English then. They didn't know English, so they just speak Chinese to me. And then like after a while they moved away and I kind of lost the Chinese. Like I think the only thing I really remembered was counting. But then I had a nanny who like spoke some like just a very little bit, and she just really loved Chinese language. So she would have these stickers. She would post them all over the place, like on the walls and stuff. And she would post these stickers with Chinese words in it. So I remember like in our house we had like 地下室, which is like basement, just like in front of the basement. And I remember every time we passed that, I would just be like 地下室. So it's like that was kind of maintenance. But then when I was 13 or 14 years old, I went to China by myself for the first time, and then I fell in love with it. And then every year ever since, I just started going there, and I was like, I want to live there. And then I applied for university, and now I live there.
Well, that is a lovely story. And I have to say, you're quite fortunate and quite lucky in that sense. You found a culture you're interested in and you move all the way across the Pacific to be there and you found your place there. That's a lovely story. Thank you for sharing that. And in the meantime, I couldn't help but notice that you have quite an experience living in China, learning. And by saying learning in China, I mean not only learning the language, but also basically to have your education here. Have you ever enjoyed education in some other countries as well?
Well, yeah. So I went to school in Brazil, and I went to school in America for a couple of months. I also went to a Filipino school and a French school, and I was homeschooled for a point in time as well. So I've done many different education systems, and I also visited school in Germany with my cousins. So many different types, and also, of course, China.
那你会觉得在各个不同的国家上学的经历最大的区别在哪里吗？ If you have to figure out or pick one distinct character of your education experience in all of these countries that you've studied in, what would be the most stand out point of all the different experiences?
中国作业最多的。
See, we have to share that sentence in the future of Takeaway Chinese. I want to leave homework to those who are listening. So they'll like my show better or hate it more. I don't really know. But, okay, so 作业最多, that's the line you picked for Chinese schools. 作业 is homework. Right? 作业. So 业 is kind of like the things you do, and 做 is to do it. It's the verb kind of character, and then you've got a noun kind of character. But together, 作业 is actually a noun. And we often say 做作业, literally do your homework. And 最 we know is the greatest form of something. 多 is more, many. So 最多, like Chinese schools has the most amount of homework. That's your evaluations. Wow. I'm a bit sad for those who are still going to school because it's September, it's school starting season, and they are again facing all these homework and schoolwork and teacher asking you to answer questions in front of the whole class. It's happening all over again. Anyways, okay, 中国作业最多. How about Brazil?
I think what I remember the most is from Brazil school is because it's next to the beach. So a lot of times our classes care about like taking care of the ocean. So we would go and watch the sea turtles hatch or swim with
Wow.
dolphins. So like it was very much like with the ocean.
Oh, that's lovely. Because here in China, we started to include a lot of environmental awareness related classes and sessions into school education as well. But I think it is still a luxury to go to the beach and watch turtles directly. Here in China, we do not really have that many turtles adjacent to our schools. But yeah, I love that. That is quite amazing. And we talk about 生态环境 quite so much in China nowadays. So 生态is ecological, 生态. And yeah, that's a beautiful element in Brazilian schools. How about French schools?
So for French school, I would say the way that you test is kind of different because it's just pure memorization.
Really?
Like they give you a book and they're like, okay, memorize the first chapter, and then the test is you have to write out the first chapter. It was very hard.
It sounds hard. So how precise do you have to be? I mean, here in China, we have that kind of test as well. But to start with, it only happens to, for example, Chinese subject or English subject, the kind of subject that you're basically learning the language or learning the literature of that language. In that case, you do need to recite all these things. We call it 背写. So 背 means you remember it. And 写 means you write it down. We do have some of those. And on top of that, if you're learning, for example, mathematics or if you're learning physics, then the only thing the teachers would ask you to remember and to write it down would be the formulas, the 公式.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do have that. But when you say you have to write down the entire chapter, how precise do you have to be?
I mean, I think pretty precise. And
Wow.
like spelling counts, and I'm very bad at spelling. So
Well, in Chinese, we say 也不可以有错别字啊. It's the same idea. So 错 means wrong. So if you write down a character that does not really exist in the Chinese language, then that's a 错字. So it's the wrong character. You are missing a stroke or you're messing up the order of it. Then it's a 错字. And 别字, 别 is kind of like, for example, we know that in the Chinese writing system, we have over 50,000 Chinese characters. Yet, they share only hundreds or a couple of hundreds of pronunciations, which means a different character might share same pronunciation, which means maybe you're writing down a character that is with the same pronunciation, yet the wrong character. But in that case, it's not like the character itself is wrong. It's like you're using it wrong. So we say it's a 别字. So 错别字 basically generalize the kind of mistakes you could make when it comes to writing. But yeah, 错别字. I hate 错别字. I am really bad at that when I was a kid. Seriously, yeah, I would miss a dot. I would write down the wrong character with the right pronunciation. And sometimes when I forget to write or forget how to write that character, when I was in universities, I would just smoosh it a little bit, like pretend I know how to write it, but not really writing it, you know?
Done that in my class. This is not
Right? But when I was little, when I was in, for example, primary school or middle school, I cannot do that. I'm not allowed to, link all of the strokes together. For those of you who are not that familiar with the Chinese writing system, to you, Chinese characters could look a little bit like drawings. But there are more significant strokes and more significant lines in one character. And if you do it with your own style, sometimes people can still recognize it, even if you're, for example, instead of writing 3 lines, you are kind of like writing a wave line and linking them together. It's okay in the Chinese society, but it was not okay if you're only in primary school. In primary school, you're supposed to write it like you're printing it. I mean, not quite so much. We do not really have that level, but we try. So when I was in primary school, if I encounter a character that I do not know how to write, the only thing I can do is to put on the pinyin, which is a bit sad.
Yeah, I agree. I try to avoid pinyin actually, cause like for me, I'm actually very dyslexic. So like when I read English, French, any languages, even pinyin, I can kind of get mixed it up. Yeah,
But you know a lot of languages.
yeah, quite a few.
Right? Very talented girl. And what about schools in, for example, the United States?
In the US, it was very about like what the person wants. Like you get to pick your class schedules and pick if you want arts or sports or music. And then it was really much about like you centered and what you want to work on. And so that's what I really enjoyed that aspect.
That is actually quite nice. But for those who are suffering from decidophobia, that's not going to be fun. It's gonna give you a lot of pressure selecting the ones that you like. We do have that in China as well. I'm not really sure the situation in NYU Shanghai, but I remember for my college, we also had the 选课大战. So seriously, because we know 选 is to select, to pick, and 课 is the class or the subject actually for the entire semester. 大战 is like a big fight. It's definitely exaggerating. And there's no war or battle involved, but that is a Chinese expression. I think, by the way, this is a fun point in the Chinese language. We use military-related or fight-related expression quite a lot. Even we do not really support war or anything. We're very, very peaceful kind of culture. But, you use that kind of metaphor to showcase how fearful the competition is. And the reason that the competitions is fierce is that you want the classes that you're interested in. You want to have good teachers. And sometimes you secretly also want the teachers to be generous when they're grading you. So in that sense, selecting or fighting for A class can be, quite important, especially in this period of time when the school semesters are about to start. So for you, for example, when you're preparing for 开学前，你都会做什么准备呢? What do you usually do?
I love office supplies. I love to go shopping for new notebooks and pencils and highlighters and all these office supplies.
That is quite interesting because I love office supplies. And I think a lot of my classmates back in especially primary school, middle school, and high school enjoy going to different grocery stores. And you pick the right notebook. By saying the right notebook, I mean different notebooks are for different subjects and have different use. Did you have 错题本?
No, I didn't use this one.
It's okay. I need to ask you this. Do you know what 错题本 is?
No, I don't know. 错题本.
错题本, can you guess?
Wrong. A notebook where you write wrong stuff.
See? I think you're quite close. So 题 we know is questions. So a 题目is a question. And 错 is wrong. So for those questions that you answered wrong in a test or in a exercise book, you select them, you pick them up, you write them down on that, basically on that notebook of yours, so that when you need to review what you've learned, you can go through all of the questions that you've given wrong answers to. These are kind of like the loopholes you have in your knowledge system. It's quite common and very popular in China. I think it's related to different teaching method and different ways of learning, but 错题本 is definitely very useful in my school years. But I get it, 文具我也很喜欢文具，文具会给你一种觉得世界很整齐，然后也很漂亮的感觉。It's like your shiny little things. You tidy them up. And I don't know about you, but when I was a student, in order for me to start studying, I need to spend around 20 minutes organizing my desk.
For sure.
The desk needs to be very tidy. I need to put them in the right order, in the right places, and look great. And then I feel like I'm already tired. I do not want to study anymore.
That sounds like me. Are you me? Are you looking? Yeah, I would do that, and sometimes because I actually really love studying.
I know, me too.
So like I'll get distracted when I'm like studying something, because then I'll look on Google and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, and find more information about it, but it's not related to what we're learning.
Oh yeah, I do that too. But school years, you have different style of learning, you have different way of absorbing knowledge. And here in China, I think these days, these generation of students are enjoying more because of the really fast internet. When you do want to look something up, you have the accessibility of a numerous amount of information, and it's really easy to fall into the rabbit hole and find yourself trying to climb back but can't. But that is very, very common. But I think still you're learning. It may not relate to your subject at that moment. It's still knowledge, and you're still figuring out a certain hobby or interest area of yours, and that is always very beneficial in my opinion. On top of 文具, which is basically office wear, the pens and notebook and rubber, sometimes different things. What are some other things that you would prepare for a school starting period of time? Or do you notice the difference among different cultures when it comes to preparing for 开学? So, by the way, 开学, start of a semester.
I've gone to a lot of schools where they require uniforms. So like normally you would have to go and either buy new uniforms if you've like grown, or just like keep wearing the same ones. But I know like when I went to like an American school, they didn't have uniforms, so I had to actually get like new clothes to wear out. And I hated that because there's too many options. I don't know what I want to wear, like if I have to pick something new every day.
Here in China, for primary school, middle school, and high schools, we do have 校服. So 校 is the school, 学校, school, and 服 is clothing. So 校服 is like school clothing, so uniform of specific schools. And normally you would have different units of 校服, one for summertime, one for wintertime, one for exercising. They're good wear. I mean, you do not love your 校服 that much. So you would sit on the ground, so you would run and do sports and clash with others. You don't really care that much about your 校服. And also for kids, they grow up so fast, which means they will outgrow their uniform after maybe 1 year. So they need to get new ones. And in that case, actually, you might need a new set of 校服 every year or every couple of years, which is kind of nice. And one thing, I do not know if you had that experience, but when I graduated each period, because we know now we still call different grades, like for example, in the 7th grade, you basically enter from primary school to middle school, which means you enter a new class, you would have new teachers and new classmates, which means you have graduated from primary school. And the same things go to also the 10th grade. And the thing is, for my middle school as well as high school, when I graduated, I would have all of my classmates as well as some teachers sign my uniform, 在校服上签名. Did you do that?
Yeah, I did that. I remember like, well, I wasn't the one really graduating, but like sometimes when I have friends in the grades that were graduating, I would also 签名. I would also
签名.
sign their t-shirt.
Yes. It's some
Yeah.
very lovely memories. And nowadays, kids are welcoming a even more interesting and ceremonial, creative ways to, spend the first couple of days of a new school year. You see, sometimes teachers would prepare special gifts for students, welcoming them to the school. You might be looking at a lot of homework and a lot of study, yet this is still something that you should look forward to. That's what the teachers are saying. And that is why they're giving students oranges, 橙子.
Mm.
That's a way of saying orange in Chinese. And it symbolizes 心想事成. So may all your wishes come true. 心想事成.
心想事成.
Yes.
事成.
Yes. So
Yeah.
心 is your heart, 想 is to think, to wish, and 事 is 事情, matter. Every items, and 成 is to come true, to be successful. So 心想事成, may all your wishes come true. And this 成 shares the same pronunciation with 橙子的橙. So that is why it symbolizes 橙子 oranges symbolizes may your wish come true. And also they would give students apples, 苹果. And can you guess what's the connotation of that one?
Connotation, 平平安安.
平平安安, yes. So safe and sound. It is that. I think it is getting more and more common for people to look at 苹果 and think about 平安. 平安means safe and sound, and it's also quite very useful and very important for Chinese people. 平安 and 苹果. So 苹果 is sent. And one very funny one that I really didn't anticipate would be giving people lollipop. Do you know how to say lollipop in Chinese?
棒棒糖.
棒棒糖. So 棒 in itself here means a stick. And lollipop, you've got the candy on the stick. So that's why it's a stick of candy. 棒棒糖. And the 棒 character also means excellent. So I'm giving you a 棒棒糖 so that you can be 很棒 in the future. I think teachers are trying really, really hard.
Yeah, I really like that one. That's my favorite one.
Hopefully you can send some 棒棒糖 to your teacher saying that I think your teaching method is really, really 非常棒, very excellent. Because right after the starting of the autumn semester, we are welcoming Teachers' Day.
Oh yeah, that is always in the beginning.
Yes,
Yeah,
always. And it's on the 10th of September, the very beginning, I think the second week of September, which means students are basically still warming up to their school life and they're not facing huge pressure of tests or schoolwork. And they sometimes would use that occasion to celebrate Teachers' Day and send good wishes to their teachers, which have been quite helpful and lovely. So have you ever celebrated and spent Teachers' Day in these different schools? What was it like?
in China, I did celebrate it. At first, like my first freshman year at university there, I did notice like on Teachers' Day, like a specific teacher would have like a desk and it's like full of apples, like so many apples. And I was like, what is the event? Because I know in American school they normally also give an apple to a teacher, but it's and when they think it's like the teacher does a good job, but it's normally at the end of the school year to like kind of thank the teacher for being the thing. So it was always kind of funny to me to see the apples in the beginning. I'm like, whoa, okay, that's interesting. And so after my Chinese classmates explained to me, then I also brought a apple.
Oh, lovely. And here in China, we also send teachers gift cards so that they would write the wishes or the thank you notes that we have for the teacher saying, wishing you a happy Teacher's Day, or thank you for being so patient with me, or you've been working really hard teaching us different knowledge and we appreciate it so much kind of lines on the card. And sometimes I remember for a period of time, we also would give the teacher a bouquet or some flowers, or the entire class would get the money together because it's not that expensive to buy one bouquet bouquet of flower, but you do not want that many either. So the whole class would give teacher a bouquet of flower, and the teachers would always be very happy. And we say 教师节快乐. So we know 老师 is teacher. 教师 is kind of another way, a relatively more official way of saying teacher. 教师 and 教师节 is the teacher's day. It's a 节日, it's a festival. And 快乐, happy teacher's day. That's what we would usually and normally do. Because in my opinion, I think teacher is a very profession, a noble operation, and we do always respect teachers a bit more because here in China especially, after your working hours, after teaching and tending for the kids, after the working hours, you still kind of have to, for example, answer questions from students, even if it's late at night. If they call you, you kind of feel like you want to reply to them. It's not even like you're obliged to, but you kind of want to. And also you have to note the homework, you have to score the test papers. So especially after graduating from school, I do have more and more respect to teachers and wishing them a very happy Teacher's Day. And for those of you who wanted to learn this one phrase, we always wish a teacher 桃李满天下. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I haven't heard this one.
Yeah, this one actually translates to the world is full of peach and plum trees. That's the direct translation. Actually, it means that the teacher's success is reflected in the many students that they have educated who go on to spread across the world. And here, the peach and plum trees are a metaphor for all of the achievements, the fruitful achievements of the teachers. So, 桃李满天下.
桃李满天下.
Yes, so 桃 and 李 are the peach and plum, and 满 is full of. 天下 is under the sky, under the heaven, all around the world. So if you say a teacher is 桃李满天下, you're basically saying that he or she has a lot of very successful and renowned students. So that is a way of complimenting a teacher, and it's a nice teacher-related saying.
Oh, that's very cute.
Yes,
like
it's really lovely. And we can talk a lot more about school years as well as teachers and different ways to starting a school. But that's all the time that we have. And for those of you who enjoy the show, please let us know what is your most significant and memorable events of your school year. How did you prepare to start your school semester? Because these are all fun memories. And by comparing these different trends and different ways to start a school, we learn a little bit more about different cultures. And at the end, I have to say, Happy Teacher's Day! 教师节快乐!
教师节快乐!
Yay! And that brings us to the end of today's Takeaway Chinese. I'm Niu Honglin, and thank you, Sophia, for joining the show. It's been so fun talking about these things with you. I'm definitely going to invite you back and ask you to share more fun Chinese learning experience, as well as some of your favorite Chinese idioms, Chinese sayings, and maybe Chinese cultural event and Chinese cultural phenomenon that you have witnessed. And for more episodes of our show, you can visit our website at radio.cgtn.com and go to the column podcast. You can also listen to the show and read the script there. Find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Just search for Takeaway Chinese. Don't forget to leave your questions, comments, and ratings. 感谢收听，我们下次再见。谢谢所遇见，谢谢。
Thank you. Bye bye.